Welcome. In this video, we are going to see little more details about voltage sag. We all know that voltage sag is a decrease between zero point 0.1 to zero point 0.9 per unit in RMS voltage or current at a power frequency for the duration from zero point 0.5 cycle to 1 minute. Okay, and here we are going to see how to estimate the voltage sag performance, and then we will be seeing the approaches for voltage sag ride through, and then we will be discussing some solutions to overcome voltage sag at end user level. Estimating voltage sag performance. It is important to know or estimate the voltage sag performance of your power supply system, okay, so that you can design and develop a solution to assure its operation, okay. And how are we going to estimate the voltage sag performance? So the answer is here. So you have to determine the number of voltage sag that results from transmission system fault, and then you have to study the characteristics of that voltage sag. And the next thing is that you have to determine the number of voltage sag that results from distribution system fault. And then you have to study the characteristics of that voltage sag. Okay. And then you have to determine the equipment sensitivity to voltage sag. Okay. The equipment that you are using at your level. And finally, you have to evaluate or propose a different solution that could improve the performance of the system, or that will ensure the operation of that equipment. Fundamental principles of protection. So here we are going to see how to protect the system from the voltage sag. Okay, so several things can be done in different areas, like you can do something in the utility point of view to reduce the voltage sag, and the same you can do something at the end user level, and you can do something in the equipment manufacturer level, okay, so that you can reduce the voltage sag and its effect, okay. So generally the most important factor considered is the cost, okay. The cost is the most important factor. So the best answer for protection is to do something in the equipment manufacturer level, so that the cost will be minimum and it can be solved easily. Approaches for voltage sag ride through. So here we are going to see the approach right from equipment level solution to utility level solution. Okay, so the cost increases from equipment level specification, that is equipment level solution, to utility level solution. Okay, so the first you can do some modifications in the equipment to overcome the voltage sag. So that is the first level, and the second level is the customer level solution. So we can do some modifications in the motors and the controllers and other kind of loads to avoid voltage sag. Okay, so that is the customer level solution. And then at the feeder you can do some modifications to avoid the voltage sag. And finally, in the utility point of view, that is in the transmission and distribution side, you can do some modification, or you can provide some solution to overcome the voltage sag. So if you do some modifications or solutions in the utility, then you have to invest more cost compared to the customer level solution and the equipment or manufacturer level solution. So the best thing is that if you invest a small amount of money to do some solution to overcome the voltage sag at the manufacturer level, then it is fine. Okay, so that is the approach that we are following, considering the cost. So the manufacturer should have the voltage sag ride through capability curve to manufacture the equipment, so that it can be properly used. Okay, so the equipment should have at least 70% voltage ride through capability, okay, as per ITIC curve. All right, and the more ideal ride through capability for short duration voltage sag would be 50%, as specified by the semiconductor industry in standard ACMI F47. So the solution at the higher levels, that is at the utility level, generally becomes more costly. So it is preferred to do solutions at the manufacturer level. If it cannot be done at the manufacturer level, then you can apply some uninterruptible power supply, that is the UPS system at the customer level, or a power conditioning system at the customer level. And at level 3, we can also provide some backup power supply for the system. And at level 4, which represents alterations made to the utility power system, which is costly, but if there is no other choice, we have to go for this kind of alteration at certain conditions. All right. So if the solutions cannot be done at the manufacturer level, then the best thing is that the solution should be done at the end user level. So we, as at the end user level, what are the solutions that are available? So the solutions are, we can use ferro resonant transformers and magnetic synthesizers, active series compensators, usage of UPS like online, standby, hybrid UPS, then motor generator sets, then flywheel energy storage systems, then SMES, that is superconducting magnetic energy storage system, then by using a static, that is static and fast transfer switches. Ferro-resonant transformers. The ferro-resonant transformers is a constant voltage transformer used for constant low power loads. So it is used for low power loads, and it is basically an 1:1 transformer which provides an output voltage which is not significantly affected by any variations in the input voltage. So the ferro-resonant transformer consists of a core and a primary winding and two secondary winding, and the two secondary winding, one for the load and one for the capacitor. As we know that the capacitor doesn't allow sudden change in voltage, so that means any changes in the input, it will not be sensitive to that change in the input, and it will provide a constant output voltage. Okay. So since it uses saturating transformer and it doesn't have any moving parts or active electronic parts, therefore it provide normal mode noise reduction. There won't be any noises. Then voltage distortion isolation. Okay, there will be an isolation. Okay, physical isolation and a transient voltage surge protection because of the transformer action. All right. So how does this ferro-resonant transformer produces a constant voltage? Okay, so that is basically the magnetization characteristics. So you see a change in the input voltage causes the magnetization current to change and produces a proportional flux change because of the capacitor. So it is very important. The capacitor plays an important role, and magnetic shunt. The secondary magnetic circuit is operating above the knee point. Okay, and the output flux change is reduced. Okay, this allows the output voltage to be very insensitive to the changes in input. So whatever the changes in input, it will not affect the output because of the capacitor and the magnetic shunt. All right, and this is the knee point in the BH curve, which what we are speaking before. And here you can see the CBEMA curve, and you can see two lines, one and two bold lines. One is without ferro-resonant transformer and another one is with ferro-resonant transformer. So what is the inference? You see, this is the percentage voltage magnitude. Okay, under normal condition, you can see the equipment will operate in the range of 90 to 110 percentage. Okay, So, but with ferroresonant transformer, even though the voltage reduces to 30 percentage, still it can operate, okay, because the ferroresonant transformer enables the equipment to operate in this safe region. All right. So that is why it is mentioned that the voltage sag down to 30 percentage can also be operated with ferroresonant transformer. So in such type, the loading also plays an important role. You see here the percent loading of ferroresonant transformer. Okay, so if the loading is 25 percentage, then it is not a problem. The 30 percentage of voltage can be possible to operate. Okay, but if the loading increases, then correspondingly the voltage level should also be increased. Okay, so that is how it is captured. You see, at 25% of loading, the allowable voltage sag is 30%. So up to 30% it is okay. At 50 percentage of loading, the allowable voltage sag is approximately 45 percentage. At 75 percentage of loading, the allowable voltage sag is 60 percentage. Okay, and at 100 percentage loading, the allowable voltage sag is 70 percentage. Okay. Magnetic synthesizers. Magnetic synthesizers use similar operating principle to ferroresonant transformers or CVT. Okay, and the only difference is that the ferroresonant transformers are used for single phase or low power application, whereas magnetic synthesizers are used for three phase devices or high power application. So it will be mostly found in the industries. Okay, where the sizes ranges from 15 to 200 kVA. So here also the energy is stored in the saturated transformers and the capacitor. So the working principle is same. The capacitors which doesn't allow the sudden change in voltage is captured here, and the basic principle is the transformer action. So this is the CBEMA curve, and you see this bold line is without magnetic synthesizer and this line is with magnetic synthesizer. So that means if you use magnetic synthesizer, then the voltage sag can be allowed to operate to a certain range or more than the normal range. Okay. Active series compensators. So these devices can be seen as an advantage in power electronic technologies. Okay, so this device is a type of device that can boost voltage by injecting a voltage in series with the remaining voltage during a voltage sag condition. So that means if there is a voltage sag, then a series device can be inserted to add some voltage so that it can be regulated and it can be operated normally. The active series compensators can add or subtract the voltage signal to the outputs. Okay, so here you can see the circuit. In the circuit, this is the source and this is the load. In between the source and the load, there is a power electronic circuit. Okay, there are semiconductor devices. Okay, and this power electronic circuit, you can see there are two capacitors, and these capacitors play a key role to add or subtract the voltage signal. In order to add the signal, you see the capacitor should discharge the voltage and it adds with the source. Therefore, at the output you can get more voltage. And in order to subtract, the capacitor should receive the power from the supply. Okay, so that you see the power from the source can be supplied to the capacitor and the remaining power will be supplied to the load. In that point of view, the load gets the minimum power. Okay, so that is why it is stated this power electronic circuit or active series compensator can add or subtract the voltage to the outputs. UPS, uninterruptible power supply. So the UPS consists of a rectifier, battery and an inverter. The rectifier converts AC to DC and the DC power is stored in the battery, and then the battery is converted, the battery power, that is DC, is converted to AC for for our applications. All right. So there are three different types of UPS. One is online UPS and offline UPS, and the third one is hybrid UPS. Okay. So in when it comes to online UPS, this UPS is always connected to the load. Okay. So that means the incoming power is rectified and it is converted to DC and it is stored in the battery, and then this stored DC power is converted back to AC power to feed the load. So if the power fails, the inverter is fed from the batteries and continues to supply the load. Okay, so in this system, this battery is always connected in the system. And here there is only one drawback. Okay, the drawback is it increases the losses because always this rectifier, inverter, and battery is connected to the system. So that means the losses will increase. So standby or offline UPS. So standby or offline UPS uses the same system, but it is not always connected to the load. So under normal circumstance, the main power supplies the load. When there is any problem detected or disturbance is detected, then it switches to the UPS system, and during the problematic or disturbance condition, this offline UPS is operated. And this type of configuration is the most common configuration for commodity system. Okay, and here you can see the automatic transfer switch, the applications of automatic transfer switch. So under normal conditions, the power supply passes through this, and when there is any disturbance in the normal power supply, and this UPS system comes into operate. Okay. So hybrid UPS is the combination of the online, offline, and adding this voltage regulator. And you can see here, this is the UPS system and a regulator, that is CVT, constant voltage regulator, or ferroresonant transformer is used at the load side, and that makes the system hybrid. Motor generator set. So this arrangement is used to separate sensitive loads. Okay, so the concept is simple. The motor is powered by the actual power supply and it drives the generator that powers the load. So the motor and the generator, there will be a coupling that separate the sensitive load from other classes of disturbance such as harmonic distortion and the switching transient. So this is the diagrammatic representation, and you can see the actual line is given to the motor and it operates the generator through a flywheel, and the output of the generator is given to the load. And if there is any disturbance in the line, this flywheel operates and it won't affect the load. So there are several disadvantages in the motor generator system. The first one is the associated losses with machines or more, and then the noises are also more because of the motor, and then the maintenance required is also periodic. Okay, so the periodical maintenance should be provided, and the frequency and the voltage drop during the interruptions is also considerable. All right. The flywheel energy storage system also provides a better solution for the voltage sag. Okay, so the modern flywheel, which uses high-speed flywheels with power electronic system, is able to provide solutions for this voltage sag. Okay, so in this case, the amount of energy stored is proportional to the square of the speed. And this is the cutaway view of an integrated motor, generator, and a flywheel used for energy storage system. So in this system, the rotor serves as the storage device. Superconducting magnetic energy storage devices can also provide a solution for the voltage sag. And here the coil is lossless, therefore the energy can be released instantaneously. The superconducting magnet is constructed with a niobium titanium conductor, and it is cooled to approximately 4.2 Kelvin by liquid helium. And this is how the superconducting magnet is constructed. And this consists of this SMES device consists of the superconducting magnet and a voltage regulator and capacitor bank, inverter, DC breaker, inverter module, sensing and control circuit, and then series injection transformer. Okay, so you see this SMES is connected in between utility grid and the plant load. Okay, and at the point where the transformer is mounted. Okay, so this makes the system to avoid voltage sag because of this arrangement. You see the capacitor bank is there to provide voltage to the system, or if there is any over voltage it can reduce the voltage by absorbing the power. So this typical SMES system can protect load up to 8 MVA for voltage sag as low as 0.25 per unit. Okay, so we know that the voltage sag will be from 0.1 to 0.9 per unit. So even though if there is a 0.25 per unit voltage sag, this SMES system can support and provide voltage so that the equipment can operate. So this SMES devices is comparable to the UPS because of the storage facility. So there are several advantages, and the most important advantage is the recharge cycle. Okay, for battery or UPS it will take more time, whereas in case of SMES device the recharge cycle is typically less than 90 seconds. Okay, you see, so that is the biggest advantage, and in addition to that there are several advantages. Static or fast transfer switches. So the transfer switch, basically the transfer switch switches the source, okay, maybe the primary source to secondary source or secondary source to primary source. So the conventional transfer switches will switch from primary to backup, and it will take some seconds, okay, some more seconds, whereas the fast transfer switches can transfer in about 2 electric cycles. That means it is less than a second. Okay, and this is due to the advancement of power electronic technology. So this is the diagrammatic representation of static or fast transfer switch. Okay, you see the primary source, there is a 12 kV primary source and 12 kV alternate source, and this static transfer switch can operate very fast to do this transition, comparable to the mechanical transfer switch or the conventional transfer switch. So the important consideration to make use of this static or fast transfer switch is the availability of power supply. At least there should be 2 independent power supply is required to enable the transfer switches to operate. Okay, so thank you.